Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at the Savage Sword of Conan, the original Comics Omnibus Vol.2 from Titan Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Titan Comics and Heroic Signature for sending us a copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market on November 12th or 13th, depending on where you get your books. What we're looking at here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that's going to be available everywhere. You have Roy Thomas, John Buscema, Savage Sword of Conan, and the original Comics Omnibus. Now, on the left-hand side is your direct market cover, and that cover is only available at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, waltzcomicshop.com, bdcosmos.com, talesofwonder.com, comicsbugle.com, readcomics.com, dyingbreedcollectors.com, organicpricebooks.com, instocktrades.com, and DCBS, and of course your local comic book store. But everything else underneath the dust jacket is the same, so let's shift the focus back to this right here, and then check out the spine. Wait, let's not do that. Let's actually compare it to the Marvel release of the stories collected in here. This, of course, being the standard edition cover, but that's not available this time around. And then the spines of the books. Again, Heroic Signatures, keeping that trade dress that we've come to love, that Marvel started. The Savage Sword of Conan, the original Comics Omnibus, and over here, the Savage Sword of Conan, the original Marvel years. Roy Thomas, John Buscema, Volume 2 with that same image down here. At first I thought it was shifted up a little bit, but no, looking the same. And then the backs of each of these Omnis. Beyond Savage, that even the font they're using is the same. The mature content is over here for Marvel. But this time around, Heroic Signatures there, Titan Comics. And then down here is suggested for mature readers. The price of the Marvel Omni is $125, while the new printing from Titan Comics is $150. Now, let's look at what's on the dust jacket flaps right here. Sword, sorcery, and savagery, and then a little bit of bio on the creators, which is exactly the same thing that they had over here in the flaps for the Marvel one. Now, it is a little bit lighter, like the pattern that they're using, this marble pattern that they're using, than the Marvel Omnis. As a matter of fact, like, it looks just a little bit lighter than the Marvel one on everything, like the word, the color on the Conan there, and even Conan down there. And then the back right here of the symbol, yeah, just looking a little bit lighter in every way. But let's shift the focus back to this. Now, I cannot wait for their new Savage Sword of Conan comics that they're going to be collecting. So they're collecting these in a trade paperback. So this is the Titan Comics one that they're putting out with modern creators. But this is the classic Marvel era. So let's go ahead and crack it open. Talk quickly a little bit about the stories and the artwork collected in here. Not all of them, of course, just some of the ones that are my personal favorites. And then I could do a quick comparison to the original printing. Okay, let's go ahead and crack this omnibus open. And one thing that they've added to these collections are these end sheets, and I absolutely love that. I got to interview the editors and the collected editions editors for Savage Sword of Conan just this past week. If you want to go and watch that, strongly recommended, especially if you're a fan of this type of collection or anything Conan, because it was really informative and a lot of cool stories behind the scenes. And speaking of behind the scenes, actually, here is your amazing, I love the fact that they're reusing this too, especially because it features this young lady right there. Title page right there, and your credits for the behind the scenes. This is the gentleman I interviewed, David Leach right there. He was one of the gentlemen that I interviewed. And then David from heroic signatures. The Savage Sword of Conan right here with the credits. So you have Roy Thomas taking top billing with John Buscema. But also you have David Anthony Kraft, Fred Blozard, John D. Clark, and of course Robert E. Howard. Because what is any of this without Robert E. Howard? You have Gil Kane and Frank Brenner, Neil Adams, Michael Netzer. As far as some of the pencilers, the inkers, Alfredo Alcala doing a lot of the inks for mainly John Buscema. But you also have Dick Giordano, Tony DeZuniga, and Tim Conrad, and the Tribe, which are a group of like Filipino inkers that helped out when things were behind. And of course, the illustrators, right? Like the people that actually did the whole work, like Big John Buscema, Barry Windsor Smith, Mike Zeck. Like it's amazing just how much of their work is all over these pages. It's usually when it's like a prose part of the story that they'll have an image or an illustration from one of these wonderful creators. The letters right here, like John Costanza and Art Zemeck, Alfredo Alcala, and then the color is Murray Severin, because there's really not that many colors throughout these pages. And speaking of pages, here's your table of contents, where you're going to find each of the stories when it was originally printed, and then broken down by contents, the actual story, and then the letter pages, the house ads. It's really cool that they break it down like that. Much like the Marvel Omnibus of Savage Sword of Conan did. Your introduction right here by Roy Thomas. I always tell people, and I stick with this statement, do not read the introductions by Roy Thomas until you read the books, because the wonderful behind-the-scenes stories are great, but he tends to spoil a little bit of stories in case you hadn't read them. So just remember that. And they are very, very, like, oh my gosh, they are very detailed, including some of the feuds behind the scenes as to what inker Big John didn't like, but everybody else seemed to. And we kick it off with Savage Sword of Conan number 13. So collected in here, Savage Sword of Conan 13 through 28. The Marvel Comics Super Special number 2. The book has 944 pages and retails for $150. And I'll just go ahead and say that this has the exact same page count as the Marvel Omnibus does. So when I do a little comparison, it's going to be a quick comparison. And I love that because there's nothing missing. There's nothing that's extra added here. It is just the exact same printing. Nothing had to be taken out, which to me is great. So we do kick it off with the Gods of Bal Sagoth right here. This is a story by, of course, Roy Thomas working with Gil Kane. And you can see the difference in the Gil Kane artwork compared to somebody like Big John Buscema later on, too. But there's a few stories in here. This is all in black and white. There is one color story. This is the Shadows in Zambola. And this is the one that is actually inked by the Tribe. And the Tribe, like I mentioned, were a group of Filipino inkers when they were running a little bit behind. But it is the work in here of Neil Adams. So you do get some artwork in here by Neil Adams and then the Tribe inking. So there's different, you'll see different tones used through here. Some of the shadows are a little bit darker at times. Some of the sketchiness is taken away. Some of the work looks a little too sketchy. So it's interesting to see just which member of the Tribe like worked on what page. But that is what happens back then when they were running out. Now, of course, I have to mention again that the Savage Sword of Conan is one of these books or collections that is mature content, and mainly due to the violence. But sometimes there's nudity in here, or even, I don't want to say sexual content because it's not like gratuitous, or as gratuitous as the movie was, per se. But all of it in black and white, with the exception of one of the stories back here. The letter pages are intact. The interviews are intact. This is one with artist John Buscema, and that's his ever-popular picture right there. This is, of course, the cover that they're using from issue number 16. But I will say one of my all-time favorite stories is collected in here. And then I think one of Roy Thomas's favorite story is also collected in here. But this is the People of the Black Circle right here. And I think out of the entire book, this is my favorite story. It is a Buscema and Alfredo Alcala presentation with Roy Thomas writing this story. And to me, I just love this story right here. I think it is the perfect Conan story. I can't remember if I mentioned it in my original overview of Volume 2, because I don't really go back and watch my overviews, my old overviews, and it's been a couple of years, but if you want to know how good Savage Sword of Conan is, this is a great volume right here, by the way, but The People of the Black Circle is one of the best stories. I want to say it's simplistic yet multi-layered, but it shows how wonderful of a story Conan can be, and also just how well it works with a supporting cast of some of these characters that help Conan in his own agenda, if you will. The pinups are all back here as well, just like in the original printing, and some of the backup stories are all intact. And gosh, that piece right there, it's so good. Covers are the ones that are done in color, and you're going to see throughout these pages when the book or the issues were originally printed. Like this one is 1977. So there is another story in here if you want to see like how good Savage Sword of Conan can be, again in black and white and in color. But I think a lot of us tend to like Conan when it's just uncensored, unfiltered, and that's because, I don't know, to me that's the way Conan is, right? And don't get me wrong, the original years, the color ones are wonderful, but there's just something special about the way the black and white looks. And even in black and white, you can start seeing the difference in the type of artists, the range of artists that they had in this book. So it's not always Big John Buscema with Alfredo Alcala. There's different artists that tell some of the backup stories, and then of course the main story, as we saw with Neil Adams. But there is a story in here, and I think it's in issue 24. Yeah, this one right here. Tower of the Elephant. The Tower of the Elephant, at least from the introductions by Roy Thomas, is regarded as his favorite Conan story. It is, of course, an adaptation of a Robert E. Howard story. And that's the cool thing about this, is when you learn about what is adapted and what isn't, because I haven't read Conan prose in so many years. I was big into it when I was in high school. But you have like things like The Pool of the Black One. That one is actually an adaptation of a Robert E. Howard book. And this one here is an adaptation of a Robert E. Howard book, this Tower of the Elephant. Like originally, I think this was the pitch for the Conan series, because you have an adaptation that was done by Barry Windsor Smith, and then you have this one here, which is the Buscema and Alcala adaptation right here. There are a lot of horror elements in this one too that kind of remind me a little bit more of like H.P. Lovecraft than Robert E. Howard, which I mean to some people, you can see both of them there. And let's actually go towards the back here, because we have the Marvel Comics Super Special. This is the only one that you're going to see in color, and it is because it is the Savage Sword of Conan Super Special here. So you have this story right here by Robert E. Howard, by Roy Thomas and John Buscema and Alfredo Alcala. And this is the only story in here that is done in color, but it's these type of colors that you're going to see. Back here, you're going to see bio and the people behind Conan, including Robert E. Howard, young Roy Thomas, John Buscema, Alfredo Alcala, and Marie Severin. And a little bit about the Conan movie, but man, do they love reminding you about the Conan movie that is coming out. Not only do you have articles and interviews in the back of these issues, you actually have a poem here by Robert E. Howard. You have Barry Smith and Tim Comrade doing the illustrations for that, and of course the letter pages. Not every issue has letter pages, but the ones that do are collected here. And this is right here, the Fangs of Gwalur, but it's actually the Jewels of Gwalur. This is, I remember reading an interview once with Roy Thomas talking about how this is his favorite Conan story that he got to write. And it is one that is adapted from a Robert E. Howard story. This one, they do give credits right here. Dick Giordano does the artwork for this one, and again, adapted from Robert E. Howard. One of the coolest things that I've learned about Conan over the years is that sometimes the adaptation came from another Robert E. Howard property, not necessarily a Conan story, but maybe like a pirate story, and he just switched up the characters a little bit. But this, if you ever want to see Conan, like, trick priests while going into, like, full thief mode, this is the story for you. Like, there's a woman in here that pretends to be a god, so he himself gets hoodwinked a little bit when he has to go and rescue her from the temple. So it's a good story. I like it. So these are two of the best stories in here. But a lot of Savage Sword of Conan for me, and I know a lot of my viewers, I love maps, by the way, is the artwork. And the artwork is just absolutely phenomenal. And Savage Sword is one of those series that Marvel didn't finish in omnibus format that I'm really excited for the next release, because it's going to be Savage Sword of Conan Volume 9, and that's the one that Titan themselves are finishing out. So in the back, this is the same extras that the Marvel Omnibus had. And I promise I'll just do a quick comparison here in a second, but you have original pages, the actual, here's the color guide right here. The color rough for the cover right there of the Marvel Comics Super Special. The front pieces, the Robert E. Howard records right there. And then, of course, the Marvel Treasury Edition, intact with the Marvel logo up there, house ads. And then Marvel Super Special 2. And then even the cover to the Standard Edition. That wasn't even collected here. But let's first check out that binding. It is sewn binding. And look how big and beautiful that eye looks. 944 pages. And yeah, let's go ahead and do a quick comparison to the Marvel printing. All right, let's do a quick little comparison. You have the Marvel one on the left-hand side and the Titan Comics one here on the right. As far as the colors, they look about the same, honestly. Not that there's a lot of colors in this edition. Of course, this is going to look different, right? You have the heroic signatures, you have Marvel Entertainment there instead, and the Conan Properties International here, then Titan Comics over here. This right here looking the same as far as the credits, and the only difference I notice here is that the Titan Comics gives you the page number where the bonus material starts, whereas this Marvel Omnibus doesn't. Now, let's go ahead and look at the cover here of the first issue. One of the things is that the paper stock in the new Titan Comics is just a little bit thicker than the Marvel one. I mean, at first glance, or at first feel, if you will, they feel about the same kind of thickness, but it's just a little bit thicker, so there's less bleed through. It's not a lot. I'm not exaggerating. Like, it's not like, oh, this is perfect. There's still bleed through happening, but it's just a little bit thicker. So they are using it is a glossy paper stock that they're using, and at times, I don't know why, but it might be the scans. They look a little bit darker in the new printing. So one thing, yeah, this kind of looks identical. So let's actually go to this story right here, because I wanted to see how it laid over. There's less gutter loss happening in the Titan printing. A little bit more gutter loss happening in the Marvel version. It's a little bit lighter. This is a little bit darker. So let's actually look at the colors internally. Oh, and again, just so you can see how it lays over. And don't get me wrong, there's still gutter loss, but it's not like the gutter loss here, and that's mainly due to that eye that it has. But here we go. So the colors internally, yeah, there's a slight difference. And I mean very, very slight. You have to put them together. This feels like, or it looks like at least, it's just a little bit darker than the colors in the Marvel printing. Just a little bit. Not by much. And as far as the extras, it's got the exact same extras as the Marvel printing. The page number is identical. Like, we're looking at 931, so let's go to page 931 in the Marvel printing. And here we go. But this is an example of what I meant, like the paper looking a little bit different. It's like a little more brownish than over here. This looks like it's got more of a gray finish to it than that brownish finish that they have over here. But yeah, this has like a bluish, like grayish finish to it, where over here it's more of a brownish finish to it. Not sure why that is, but it's mainly happening through the extras where you can see like the original scan of the page. Maybe they rescanned it, perhaps? Not sure. But there's more of a little bit of a darker, browner tone to the finish, because the paper stock feels about the same, other than the fact that this is just a little bit thicker. But that is it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more.
And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book. And of course, the comparison to the original printing by Marvel Comics. And if you have any questions, leave those questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. What other Conan Omnis do you want to see collected? Whether it's the Marvel era, the Dark Horse era, the modern Marvel era, or of course the new Titan Comics era. If you have any questions, leave those down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Bye, Crumb. Much love.